You are my dream. There's no me without you. You are my dream. You're what dreams are made for.
All right, everybody. Welcome back to the Heartbeats podcast. I'm your host, Ruth Kogan, and I want to thank you all for joining me on the podcast all about love. Specifically, and most importantly, the love God has for us, as demonstrated in how he brings two people together for marriage and how he is loving upon his singles. And I'm very excited for you all to meet my new friends today, Freddy and Camile Posadas. And they come from, if you've been on this, joining this podcast for a while, they have been introduced to me by my producer, in quotes, Jessica Jones, who's helped me get a lot of the guests on here. But she is friends with them from church in New York. And she told me, Ruthie, you got to hear their story. So without further ado, welcome Freddy and Camile.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having us, Ruth. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Yes, pleasure as well. Apparently, we've been in the same room together. I mean, I've been to Hope Church, your church, a couple of times this past summer, but we never met face to face. So now we are virtually. But
there you go.
Yeah. So literally, I'm learning as they are. What can y'all tell me about the Posadas?
That's a loaded question. Okay, we'll do the little details. Well, presently we're living in Staten Island, New York. Originally from Puerto Rico and
from Honduras.
Wonderful.
And just a little side note: I didn't know he was from Honduras when we first met, and I just assumed he was from Puerto Rico. And then I was like, "What? What do you mean?"
Oh my goodness!
We've been married
13 years.
13?
13.
Look at that. I'm glad he said 13 because I was about to say 14. It's all good. I can't even remember my age sometimes. But 13 years.
We've known each other for 15 years.
There you go. 15
there
years.
You go.
Yeah. Yes. And I'm a special education teacher. I teach kindergarten, bilingual Spanish.
Wonderful.
And I'm a bilingual school psychologist in Spanish also.
And we work at the same school.
You do? You work currently in the same school?
Currently in the same school, yes.
We'll have to talk off camera about that. But
yes.
I'm a teacher as well, so I teach high school math. Yes. But wow, okay, awesome. Anything else you want?
We're a blended family. I have one biological son. He has two. So when we married, we became, I said we had instant family. So right now their ages are 33,
23, and 18.
Wow.
Yeah.
All
They're
right.
all grown up already.
Yeah, we're going into that empty nesters phase. We're loving it, actually.
We are.
It's very fun.
I love that. And I love to hear that. That's awesome. Oh, man. Okay. So we got a bunch of educators on this interview, but no worries, everybody. We are not talking the classroom today.
Not talking shop today.
We're not talking shop. But wow. So as we get into the Posada story, I want to remind everyone that as they share, I want you to keep in mind what's sticking out to you as they share their story. Around here, we call that your heartbeat, which is something God is highlighting to you or communicating to you through their story, through their testimony. And so God is so intimately involved in our lives. So he knows what each of us are going through. And he knows what you need to hear and be impressed with. So stories are like little sermons. So they really highlight things in our own life as well. And so stay tuned for after their episode or after their interview, because you will hear my heartbeat, which is what stood out to me, what God was speaking to me as I heard their story. So with that said, I would love for you all to share with us. Let's just get into your story. What was going on with your lives?
So I'm going to fast forward and then I'm going to back up a little bit.
Sure.
And then I'm going to say this in the concise version of it all. But I was a widow from my first marriage at the age of 19.
Oh, my.
My husband passed away of an aneurysm. He was 20 years old. And I had a 1-month-old.
Oh, my God.
And so I became a single mom in an instant. I was able to finish college. And for the next 17 years, I really, not that I ever said I'm not going to, marry again or find someone. It just didn't happen.
Yeah.
Dated here and there, but just was a single mom and just focused on that. Didn't know the Lord. Came to know him maybe about 2 years or a year before I met Freddie.
Okay.
And
No, we already met. You told me.
we had met, and I had
Yes.
already, yes. I am terrible with dates, by the way. Side note.
No worries.
Terrible.
He'll help you.
For all I know, he's been with me my whole life. I told him, don't you remember? But so I came to know the Lord, and I had a plan. My son was 17, and he was about to graduate high school. My beautiful sister lives in Florida, and my niece and nephew were young at the time. And I'm like, I'm out. I have paid my dues in New York. I am ready to move on to my next chapter. And I just wanted to go and start fresh.
Yeah.
And then I met Freddie, and we just, talked for a little bit. And I told him of my plan, that I wasn't interested in meeting anybody. And I just wanted to move to warmer weather, away from New York and away from all the busyness.
3 times you told me that.
On 3 different occasions, he asked me. I was like, no, not interested. I'm out. I need to go and start fresh. And then I had a prayer, though. I as I came to know the Lord and to read his word and to have an understanding, and this was an honest prayer, and this is one of the first things that I shared with Jess was, I told God, I was very specific. I said, Lord, I said, if you want me to remain single for the rest of my life, I'm going to be okay with that. But if you should send me someone, I have a list. And I by one.
Yes. All right.
I said, he has to know you and love you above all things. He has to speak Spanish. He has to be a good dad. He has to he has to know how to cook, how to fix things around the house, and have a beautiful, beautiful heart.
Oh, wow.
That's what I want. And I prayed it. I remember to this day, I remember saying it. I said, that's what I want. And I met Freddie. I didn't know this was the package. I was like, no. And Freddie was like, all right. So just so you know, he said, it's okay. I'll be your friend. And I said, okay, I could be your friend. And for the next 8 months, we spoke on the phone every day. Never saw each other.
Wow.
And we would talk for hours. I'm cooking, cleaning, I'm on the phone. And some days he would call and I wouldn't pick up, and he would call again and I wouldn't pick up. And then finally I pick up the phone, I'm fine, I just don't want to talk today, and I would hang up. And he was like, okay, but for 8 months.
Wow.
And then I'll give you a little bit more and then he can talk. I don't want to talk talking. One day I get a phone call the next morning from his sister, one morning. And I had been at church service. It was a Wednesday night. And so I had turned off my phone. And when I turned it on the next morning, she told me he had been in an accident. And he had been hit by a van. And his leg, was in pretty bad shape. And he was in the hospital and going to need surgery and all of that. And so I went to visit him. And I realized that I had developed feelings after all this time for him.
Wow.
That if something had happened, it would have impacted me more than I thought.
Yeah.
And so at that point I said, maybe we can give this a try. Maybe.
Wow.
So I know there's so many details, but then after that I had planned a trip to the Philippines. My very good friend was from Philippines and they were going, and I had booked this trip to go to the Philippines with them and to Hong Kong. And he had already come out of the hospital, and he's like, no, I want to drive you. I'm like, you can't drive. You can't even walk. Forget a long drive.
Right.
You're in a cast with crutches. It's not happening. But lo and behold, I'm at the airport doing my check-in, and I turn around, and there he is on crutches.
Oh, wow.
Sweaty in the month of August. He's like, I had to come and say goodbye before you left on your trip.
Ooh, that's beautiful.
Yeah. And so I left, and when I came back,
wow.
He asked me one more time, and I said, I said, let's give this a try. I said, I'm going to trust you. That was the words. Those were the words that I used, because to me, trust was more important than anything else. And for me to be with someone again after such a long time, I needed to be able to trust that person that I was going to be with. And so that's what I said.
Wow. Freddie, I want you to share your part, and I'm going to dig deeper, by the way, Camille. So just so you know, no, that was amazing. But go ahead, Freddie, and share kind of your side of things, and I got to hear where y'all met. Like, how did
we met? We actually met. I graduated from undergrad.
Okay.
I was 29, 30, around that age. And in the company we used to work for, it had two companies. One for early intervention, which is the kids that they service for speech, LT, PT, from 0 to 3 years old, which is where I work for. And she used to work from the preschool age, 4 to 5. So that's where we met.
Okay, so it was still at work. It was still a work situation where you met.
Yes.
Okay.
That's where we met.
And Freddie, where were you? Camille mentioned that at the beginning she had been married prior and was a widow. What's your story that led you to Camille?
Well, I was married also, and I had 2 kids at that point. And I had gone through a divorce, and I was still living in the same, because we had a condo. Okay. So I couldn't really afford to live, the house without the consequences, of living in a place, paying my own rent and all that. So I was still there, and but we had separate lives, and I was living my life. And, I was pursuing Camille, absolutely. And then 3 times I did tell her, I asked her, if she was interested, she wanted to go out with me. And she said no, because she had plans. And then she went to her boss and had a meeting with him to tell him. So my sister used to work there also. She still works in the same place. And we told her when she came out that we heard what she had said. She was like, "You did?" And I said, "Yes." And she's like, "Oh my gosh."
I gave in my resignation. I gave the agency 6 months to find someone to take over my position. I said, I've been here for a long time. I said, the agency was wonderful to me. They were super accommodating and very mindful, of the needs that you have as a single mom. And I gave them my all, and it was a great place to be. But my time there, I knew also, because I had taken it to prayer, I knew that my time was up. And I wanted to leave well. I didn't want to leave them stranded. None of that. And so I said, I'm going to give you 6 months so you can find somebody. I said, but by December of that year, I will be moving on. Yeah.
And so she did. And they used to have a Christmas party every end of the year. So that year I went because, I wasn't going to see her again.
Yes.
I was having the time of my life. Right. Like, I'm out.
Bye, everybody.
I was so happy that she was leaving.
Yeah.
So I stayed until late. My sister was going to bring me home, but I said no, because I had, in my mind, I had other plans. So I stayed there late, and I helped her out to carry her stuff, her gifts and everything to her car. We were going in the elevator.
Oh my, I didn't know he was going to share that.
All right, Freddie, tell us.
And we had all the packages, and then the elevator was going down. And I went ahead and I said, it's what it is. So I kissed her.
All right. Yes. And how did she receive that?
Well, I thought she was going to slap me or something, I was waiting for the slap or the push or something, but she didn't. She really received it well. And she brought me home that day.
I said, "You're here and you're stranded." I said, "Now I feel responsible. I have to drive you home."
Now you got to take it home.
I did. I received the kiss, and I said, "You know what? This is part of my going away."
Wow. So was this, Camille, you mentioned this 8 months that you talked on the phone. Was this prior to that 8 months?
No, this is after. This is after I left the agency. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, she had left the agency already when we started talking.
Yeah. Okay.
And it was every day. We talked every day. We used to cook. I had my kids with me most of the time. Excuse me. And I used to cook in the house. I used to do things in the house, and we talked all day. I mean, all the afternoon we talked. We had time to talk, and we talked. And there were times that I would call her and she wouldn't answer. I'm like, this is strange. And she used to tell me that she didn't see the phone, but I'm like, you have that phone 24/7 next to you. Like, that phone is part of you. So there's no way that she doesn't see that phone.
I've since repented for lying.
Was that, Camille, was that partly fear, or was that like, you're just like, I'm tapped out today and I can't engage?
Yeah, no, that wasn't it wasn't really about him. It was about myself. I've always understood Elijah very well when he went hiding into that cave.
Yeah, yeah.
And I always felt like when I get a little bit overwhelmed, I'll do that. I'll just go into that hiding mode and not be able to really, talk But he was really wonderful, and I understood that he was doing it from a place of genuine concern. It wasn't, and so I wanted him to not to worry and to know that I was okay. But I just didn't want to talk on that given day.
So what, Freddie? You talked for 8 months, and during that time, my understanding is, Camille, you were like, yeah. So we're friends. She wasn't giving you the like, yes, let's go. What gave you the courage to just keep at it?
Until today, I said it was from God because, my first relationship was really bad. Yeah. And I really wanted somebody who loved me for who I was and accepted me for who I was. God just put it in my heart that she was the one that, she would give me all that. That she would love me for who I was. And, not because what I could give her, but, just for the person that I was at that time. And of course, I had been broken. Yeah. And it was a difficult time. It was a very difficult time. Divorce is not an easy thing. Yeah. It really isn't. But I went through it, and it was what waited for me after that. It was really great because I met her. It was 8 months that it was from January through August that we spoke. She went away. When she came back, I went to pick her up to the airport. She drove us back home because the leg that I broke is the ankle, my right ankle. So I had a cast from my toes to my knee. So I had to put her on the driver's side seat and drive with my left foot.
That's no joke.
The things we do for love. Oh my
God.
Right.
So she drove us back to her house, and she was jet lagged. And then I asked her that, and I used to record music for her because she loves music. So I used to record music for her and play it for her. And I asked her, and she turned around and she said she was going to give us a chance.
That's beautiful. So really, you felt like God put it on your heart. I shouldn't say felt like. God put it on your heart that this is who I have for you. And that kind of gave you the ability to persevere.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. There was nothing else because he was the only one who gave me that strength, because it was, we were friends, but at the same time, it's not what I really wanted. Yeah. But it really, I don't even know how it extended to 8 months in that sense, when you really think about it. Yeah. I said, I don't know how I did it. I really don't know, because it wasn't hard, but it was a stagnant stage in my life that I didn't know, where I was going to end up with her, if I was going to end up with her or not. So that really, puts things into perspective.
Yeah.
And, you don't know. And nobody knows tomorrow, but, at least we have a plan for tomorrow. I didn't have a plan with her. I mean.
Yeah. But for me, that time, and I'll tell anyone, it's God knew what I needed.
Yeah.
I needed to count someone as a friend before I could look at them in a different light. And because, I had a son. And so for me, my son came before, and I needed to be able to trust the person that I was going to be with and to get to really know them and with no expectation, no pressure, just be myself, just be who I am, and have that person be genuine, with me. And so I didn't know, honestly. I was like, I'll be your friend and we'll talk. And so the beauty of it, like I said, from Puerto Rico, from Honduras, but we had so many things, similar experience to share from growing up, in Hispanic, Spanish countries, and just sharing all those things. I was born here in Manhattan, but I was raised in Puerto Rico, and I didn't return until after my son was 4 years old. So I consider myself, Puerto Rican because I was raised there.
Absolutely.
My values and my education, and I just love my island,
Yes.
And he also, he has roots, obviously in Honduras. So that time was just what I needed.
Yeah.
To be able to take, the next step without knowing it, obviously, at the time.
Sure. And Freddie, for you, looking back, right? Because in the moment, that I'm sure that was, as you said, that was very difficult. But looking back, do you see what through the lens? Hindsight is 2020. What was the benefit for you in those 8 months of waiting and perseverance, patience?
That I was able to know her, and I was able to know more about her, and in a friendly manner, because although I was very interested, I never took away the friendship part away, because I knew that's what we went into a friendship. So I was able to receive from her and exchange in that mode, Although I was interested, but I was very interested in who she was, what she had done with her life. She like she said, she became a widow when she was 19. She finished her undergrad. She finished 3 graduate degrees at that point after that. So, it was very interesting to me to have somebody of that caliber in my life.
Wow. So thank you both for sharing that. So he picks you up from the airport. You're like, okay, I'll give this a try, right? Let's go. Camile, for you, how did God work in your heart and your mind to get to a place of, okay, not just we'll try this, but I'll marry you, because you started off like, okay, we'll be friends, we'll chat, we'll talk. Right. and God had to work in your heart, warm it up. So what was the process or shift, or what did he do with you to kind of get you from, obviously friend to we'll try this, and now eventually I will marry you?
So I fell in love, right? Without not knowing, but I did. I loved his heart. I always told him, I love your heart. I love your character. And I love the person that you are, the son, the father, the brother, the friend. And I fell in love with that. But at the same time, I've always, I talk to the Lord, and I told him, I said, I'm going to give this a shot. But if this is not for me, Lord, you can remove him, and I won't even ask you why. I won't have one question. I'm going to take this step of faith, and if he's for me, then this is going to go forth. Yeah. And if he's not, it's not going to work out, and I'm going to be totally okay with that. And just to also share, when I told him, I said to him, no one can know. I don't want you to tell anybody.
Oh, wow.
I don't want you to tell. I'm not going to tell my family and my friends. Poor thing. Years later. He never asked me why, just so you know. He never asked me. Years later, he goes, you remember when we first started going out and you said this? I said, yes. He's like, were you embarrassed? I said, are you crazy? I'm like, no, I wasn't embarrassed. My friendship, you know, I had a community around me, and they had always known me as me and my son, myself, you know, and they had never seen me. I said, you're going to be under such scrutiny, and not in a bad way, but people are going to ask, who is this person that Camile is going out with? Yeah. Because I've never known Camile to go out with anybody. I said, and I knew God gave me the wisdom, not me. God gave me the wisdom. I wanted to see what we had before anybody else could say X, Y, or Z.
Wow. Wait.
And that's what I wanted. God put that desire in my heart. And I said, let's just take it slow. Let's see where this goes. I said, and promise me we're not going to tell anybody. And once we get that confirmation for us, I said, then we'll go forward. And that's how we did it, you know, and wow. And then I'll tell you, because I went from 0 to 100, because then it was like, well, I'm this age. My son is this age. I said, and I'm not interested in having a 10-year engagement or a long, whatever.
No.
I'm all in. I said, I am not. I said, I want to be married.
Wow.
So that was mine.
Wow. So you... How long did that take you to go from 0 to 100?
So we started, right? Well, it was in our conversations, though. And you know why? The beauty of it, going into it the second time, for him, for his reasons, for myself, for my reasons, you get to know what you want and what you don't want. And we were very honest.
That's good.
We've always been the kind of people, what you see is what you get. It's not about games or things like that, or I'm saying one thing, but I mean another.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I wanted to be honest with him. Yeah. I wasn't looking to be with someone on this long hiatus. I have been by myself forever. I was looking for somebody to form a family with, to be a unit, to serve God together, to seek God together. And so I said, these are the things that I'm looking for. Yeah. And he was honest with me also. And God brought us together, I believe, for a reason, because we were of the same mindset in that.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. What about you, Freddie? I mean, you went from these 8 months of patience and waiting for her. You all start a relationship. How did your heart and your mind develop in that process to get to, yes, let's get married?
Well, you know, to me it was easy because I really, you know, I loved her already. So it was really easy, you know, to go. The hardest part was that she told me not to tell anybody, and I really had no idea what that was. Where did that come from? What was it about? So I just went along with it because, you know, that's what she wanted, and you know. So, you know, I was like, okay, and so that was the hardest part of it. Other than that, you know, we went from August to December without telling anybody. And then in December, we started telling people, you know, that we were seeing each other. And then in January, we went to, my father wasn't here when you know, at this time my mom was, but my father wasn't. So we went to meet my dad to Honduras. We took an international trip and we went to Honduras for like a week, right? Yes. And she met me over there. She did tell me that I had to be at the airport to pick her up.
Fair enough.
Like, I've never been to Honduras. I said, I better see your face the minute I step off that
plane.
So, you know, we went to Honduras and, you know, at that point we knew we wanted to get married. So it was very natural for me at that point. You know, we had spoken so much. We knew what we wanted. I knew what she wanted. She knew what I wanted. And it wasn't, you know, anything hard for me to do. It was really easy in that sense. And at that point, I was going through my graduate degree. I was finishing my school psychology degree, and I was doing an internship in the Department of Ed here in New York City. Okay. So they were paying me, salary and had benefits. So that was a lot easier for me. And I was out of work for 6-7 months because they laid me off. So and I finished my my graduate degree, and I was able to collect money from unemployment at that point, which it was great, in that sense. I was not really.
And God's favor was able to meet him exactly, and he never lacked anything. So it was beautiful to see God's hand at work in his life.
Absolutely, I love that. And so you all. At what point did you propose? Like, how long was this engagement? All of that.
It's been on like a 2-year span.
Like a 2-year span, yeah. We got together in August 2008.
Yeah,
and we got married in August 2010.
Wow. So I'm curious. First of all, your story is beautiful. I'm going to poke a little bit more. This is what I do. But I'm curious, especially because, you guys got together a little bit older. And I don't know what age, but it wasn't 15. You weren't,
no.
You weren't 15, 20. You weren't in your 20s, right? You were beyond that.
Yeah. I'm 54 now, right? So when we got married, I was
41.
Yeah, that. I can't do math.
That part.
And he's 6 years younger. That's another thing. I saw his birthday and his license. This is after we were together. I'm like, I am 6 years older. I said, God knew. God knew that he let me think you were Puerto Rican and you were my age. I said, I don't believe this.
That is so funny, though. Oh, my gosh. Okay, so you, either way, though, late 30s or mid-30s to early 40s. But there's a couple things here. First of all, Freddie, Camille mentioned this list, this checklist that she had with God, right? And there's people talk all the time about these checklists, whether or not you should have them. I'm not here to make any declaration on it. However, yes, because I think especially, I just believe that God puts desires in your heart, right?
Yes, and that's so beautiful. And not to interrupt you, but what does it say, right? He aligns, right? Our desires should be aligned with his desires. Yes. And just for the record, I never made any before or after. That is my one single checklist to God.
Right. You didn't keep adding and padding it on.
I know, right?
You had like 50 things.
I said, because I've been single for a minute. I said, so let me tell you.
Right. So it had been, and you know what, that is a good point, because it had been formed after you had been single for a while. And so it allowed time for certain desires to really stick around, right? It was like you really knew like what was important to you. And I really just believe those checklists are God's way of demonstrating to us this is me doing it. And again,
absolutely.
Again, we can put all sorts asterisks about it, like seek him. Yes. Okay. I'm not talking about random,
Yeah, no.
Getting together with your girlfriends and just off the fly coming with stuff. But you have been single for a while. God had put these things in your heart, right? Freddie, I'm curious for you because, we just sort of heard you started pursuing Camille, like she stood out to you, but whether you had an official checklist or not, what was your heart looking for?
My heart was looking, like I said before, for somebody who would love me for who I was.
That's right.
For what I had. Prior to that, I came to this country when I was 16 years old, 1991. I finished high school. I finished it really quick. By 1992, I was already graduated from school. I was still 17 years old. And, like many other people, I came with a visa. So I was able to come in a plane and everything to Miami to my brother, my half-brother on my father's side. He lived there. He visited me and my mom. And then she couldn't really, you don't know, that was her first time here in the States. So I didn't know you needed a green card. I didn't know you needed all these things to stay here. So my mom was like, I gotta go because we're not gonna stay here for anything. So she left 17 days after we came in, and I told her, I already lost my year because back home in Honduras, you go to school from February to November. Okay. So you have December and January off.
Okay.
So I said, I already lost my year. I said, I'll go back in December because my brother was going back in December. And then, I'll start my year again when I go back. But when she left, I wrote a letter to one cousin that I had here in the Bronx. And she's like, oh, you're here? Yes. I said, would you help me get to New York? And they sent me, all my cousins, I had like 5 cousins here. They sent me like $150. And I was able to get a bus from Miami to New York. I came here in October of 1991. A month after I came to Miami, I got sick on the bus. It was a long. I never had been so long in a bus. 28 hours was a long time.
Sounds terrible.
It was a terrible experience, and I got sick and everything. But they picked me up from the Bronx, whatever that was, and they brought me to Brooklyn with one of my cousins. That he was married, he had 2 kids, two young girls. It was a 1-bedroom apartment, but they gave me where to live, and I stayed there with them. My cousin in the Bronx, she had a studio for her and her kids and her husband, so it wasn't really a good living situation. So I they let me stay with my male cousin, which he was married to this lady. She was from Honduras also. Very serious. Nobody really liked her, but I had my way with her, and she really liked me, and she put me into school. She went and she applied for me to school. I started right away, and I went to summer school because I needed 2 classes to finish. And I said, yeah, definitely. I go to school, so I finished in that summer, 1992. And then in September, I started working in a factory doing windows and doors. Cleaning, actually. I started cleaning the glasses and sending down the frames of the wood windows and doors. 3 months after that, one of the foremen came to me and said, I would like to train you, as a window maker. Would you be interested? I said, yes. So he took me out of that space of cleaning, and he took me out as an apprentice. And I was there for 8 years and a half. So I have a lot of cuts in my hands and everything.
Yeah, I bet.
Yes. I had a few accidents. So I had that experience of fixing things in the house. I knew how to work with wood. I was never afraid of doing things in the house. So, that really gave me that of, like Camille was saying in her list.
I say, that's where that part formed or shaped.
Yes.
Very good.
Absolutely. And, when I got married, I was able to get my green card. And the minute I got it, I went for school for my undergrad. And then I graduated. And when I graduated, I went to her job for an interview. They grabbed me right away. They said yes, and I started working there. So I worked. I have a double undergrad. I have a business administration and computer information systems undergrad. Wow. But I never really worked with it. It's something that I never used. But I had a minor in psychology, and that's how I was able to go into school psychology.
Wow. So I just love hearing too how God orchestrates people's steps, because eventually you all met at this job. Yeah. But it was a journey for you to get there.
Yes, it was.
And I just love, what is it, that verse about how God orders the steps of the righteous man or something like that.
Our steps are ordered. Amen.
Yeah, your steps are ordered. y'all are just so beautiful, and I would love for you to reflect on this piece because you guys both came from previous pain, right? Heartache, disappointment, all of that. And that's very real for many, many, many people.
Yes.
Yes, it is.
And one thing that just came to my mind as I was listening to you all share, I remember, my parents' story is the first story I did for this podcast. And I grew up hearing their story multiple times. And one of the things my parents say a lot is that your spouse should cover over your wounds. And I just want you to reflect on that with each other. Like, how has this relationship, this marriage, helped cover, or however you would say it, you might say it in a different way, but how has Freddie helped cover your wounds?
I'll start with me. When you're growing up, you have this story, right, in your mind. So as a teenager, I had a story, right, and it wasn't being a single mom. Mm-hmm. I wanted to be married at some point. I wanted to have my career first, have my kids later, be married, all of these things. And so when I lost my husband, that was just taken away from me. Mm. And I remember being so angry. I said I never wanted to be a single parent because I grew up with a single mom. And I bless the ground she walks on. She did an amazing job with my sister and I.
Yeah.
But that's not what I wanted, and I knew that. And to have that happen to me, that experience, and for many years I was very angry, just angry at the world, at everything, and I loved my son dearly, and I did everything I needed to provide, but it was very lonely. And I just didn't see myself, like I shared with you. I wasn't in any serious relationship during that time. And so when I came to know the Lord, and as you pray and as you seek and as things evolved, and not to compare myself, right, to Job, but, Job was restored and he was blessed, right? Mm. Everything that was taken away he recovered so much more. And so when we got married, my son gained, a father, and I gained a husband that I barely had time to be a wife. My husband died so suddenly. And so many things I felt like God was really restoring. And just to have the ability to help, Freddie, and to help his ex-wife, and raising up, the two boys, just having that. And because I couldn't do that for my own son because I was working all the time.
Right.
So just to be able to be more involved, right, in their upbringing, that was a blessing to me, because I love children. I'm a kindergarten teacher. Right. And so that's my language, and just to have those experiences, to be able to have a home where his parents were living at one point, where my mom was living, to be able to buy a home that could accommodate all these people and all these generations, and it's not easy. It is not. No. We have seen challenges come and go, but you choose, right? You make a decision, and you say, if God is for me, who can be against me?
Wow.
And then in that, right, being that intimacy, right, that seeking God individually and together, right? And if God is in your marriage, he will sustain you. He will. And we're testimony to that. And then, later on, if we'll tell you, Freddie is a cancer survivor. We didn't know he had a brain tumor.
Oh, wow.
He was diagnosed 3 years ago. And that he almost died. And we didn't know it. And so that took me right back, full circle.
Wow.
I'm like, Lord, how can this be happening? And he's a miracle. He's not supposed to be here.
Wow.
But God said, not yet.
Yes. Yes.
And here he is.
Not yet. Amen. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Thank you, Camille. Freddie, what about you?
Well, like Camille was saying, the restoration of something that I believed so much into marriage, and I had lost one already, and I didn't really want to be in a game. I am in today and I'm out tomorrow, and then I'm in again later and then I'm out. That was not, what I was looking for. I was looking for somebody, like I said before, that wanted me for who I was and what I had, what I was able to provide for them. So Camille represented that for me, and that restored me a lot. And the fact that a week, what was it, 1 or 2 weeks before we got married?
And just circumstances, right?
Circumstances.
So that they could come to live with us for the time being. And so that's why I said we became an instant family.
So they came and moved in with us, right before we got married. It was really amazing, to have them with me again, and Camille being there for them and provide everything, that they needed. It was amazing to me. It was something that I was so proud of, being able to provide for them, and that God was giving it to me. I love my kids. I love them so much. That's one of the reasons why I couldn't live just where I was, because I could not say goodnight to them every night.
Right.
That was really hard for me, to not say goodnight to them, not to be there when they needed me, when they wanted me. It was really hard. So that was something really great that God did for me.
Wow. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just so encouraged to hear through your all's story. Just that constant reminder that God has a way of taking our stories and bringing redemption, and I think a lot of us, even if there isn't pain because of a prior relationship, but he takes us through, we go through tough stuff. Like you said, you talked about Job, right? Like the longer you live, the more you start to resonate at times with his story and different characters, different people from the Bible, about just the pain that they go through. And when you're younger, you're shielded from a lot of that.
Mm-hmm. Yes, definitely.
Yes, definitely.
The older you get, you're like, this isn't supposed to happen.
No.
But how God is so amazing at bringing beauty from ashes, bringing redemption.
Yes.
It is.
I was just reading the other day the genealogy of Jesus in Matthew 1, and being reminded of look at his bloodline, and
yes,
let me take this. I'm going to have this person part of my bloodline. Really? Their story is crazy. Crazy.
Yes.
But that's what God does. He grafts us in, and I would like to kind of shift into specifically your marriage. And I mentioned that before we started that season 2, we're focusing on redemptive challenges. And, Camille, you mentioned Freddie's cancer. I don't know if that's what you all wanted to focus on, or if there's more than that, but I would love to hear what is a challenge or challenges you all have faced in your marriage, and how has God helped you work through them or overcome them?
No, definitely. One thing, right? Anybody who knows us will always tells us, I love it that you guys are always smiling, right?
You are.
And the smile is genuine. And one thing we speak about all the time is because it's a choice. Doesn't mean we're not going through. Doesn't mean we're not tired. Doesn't mean we face so many challenges. Prior to Freddie being diagnosed with cancer, we lost his dad. And he was here at home in hospice. And we cared for him, prior to that many years. The ability also for us to be able to provide a home for his mother, for my mother, and for all us to be under, one roof. And really honor, right? Everything that they did for us, we're able to now do for them and provide in that. And that brings its own challenges because it's not easy. It's not easy. But you say, but God always makes a way. And one of the things that when Freddie, was diagnosed, it was very, very challenging because it was sudden. We didn't know what was happening. Within a span of a week, he was diagnosed, had surgery, unfortunately suffered a seizure 2 days after the surgery. And then he was in ICU for a week, to the point where the doctors told me, I don't know that he's going to be able to come out of this. And but having a praying church, having a pastor, having that community of believers and people all over the world, Ruth, I will share with you that anybody who asks me, what can we do for you? Pray. If you know somebody who prays, you tell them to pray for Freddie.
Right.
And Freddie had people around the world. Freddie had people from Costa Rica, from Argentina, from Santo Domingo, from countries that I've never been to, praying for him. Because word of mouth and people just asking family members and relatives to pray and cover him. And we went through, I can't even, right? It's hard to, but the treatment, the recovery, the rehab, him being out of work for 2 years, having to then go through a stem cell implant that wipes out your immune system, that in itself, me having to take a leave from work, and we never missed a payment, a mortgage. We never missed a car payment. We always had food in the fridge.
Wow.
Our family, our extended family from work, our relatives, everybody just, God just made it so that, we could focus on getting him well. And that is our testimony, right? That is what God has done for us. And we know that he's done it for so many other people. But we have to speak about that because we talk about, it was a horrible thing that he went through.
Yeah.
But we see God's hand in all of it. And we see it now. To this day, we still see it.
Amen. Wow. Freddie, anything you want to add on?
Well, like Camille said, when I went off, when I was diagnosed, I actually lost conscious. It was right before Thanksgiving. That Tuesday before Thanksgiving, I don't remember anything. What happened? And she said that I had conversations with people. I was laughing with people. I was making jokes with people, but I do not remember one thing. For 3 weeks, I lost conscious. I lost 3 weeks of my life. That I signed papers saying yes to my treatment, to my surgery, and I don't remember one thing.
Oh my goodness!
So that is challenging to me because I would like, a lot of people say it's best that you don't remember, but I don't think so. I think you remembering things is best, and what can I do? That was not, that wasn't in my plans. That's in God's plans. What we're gonna remember or not. But I remember when I came out of when I gained conscious. It was an afternoon. The OT was there, right? She came and saw me. She gave me some therapy. And then from then on, I remember things. I was in the hospital for 37 days the first time when they did surgery. And then it was around here, the house. We live by a hospital here. So they did a really good job. And then Camille transferred me to MSK, the Memorial Sloan Kettering. It's a part of NYU. So they treated me there they started me with chemo here, 2 treatments, and the other 7 more treatments they gave me at Sloan.
And then the stem cell implant.
And then the stem cell implant, which it was hectic because they took out my own cells from my right arm and I couldn't move it because the needle was there. I was there for 5 hours. On a chair, just giving them blood, and they were taking out my stem cells. And they were able to get what they needed. They did it in 1 day, so it was great. And then the transplant was a month long.
In the hospital for 30 days.
Wow.
It's he couldn't walk. He couldn't, when everything, we had to carry him into the house after that first hospital stay. He wasn't able to get up. We set him up downstairs. We have a 2-story home. And so he was on the first floor, and everything was accessible to him because he had PT at home, PT, OT, speech. He's a miracle. He's a walking, living, breathing
Praise God.
miracle. Yes.
It's a couple weeks ago, I got to have dinner with a couple that I interviewed last spring. And I had dinner with them and my parents. They were friends of my parents from college. And the husband has had 17 surgeries.
Oh, my God.
And he was reflecting on just he said something like those 20-year-olds, or however you want to put it, but he said those 20-year-olds have no idea the vows they're making. He's like, when you say sickness and in health, right? Yeah. He's like, it's taken on a whole new level, a whole new different meaning for him when you've been through a major health life crisis and seeing how your spouse shows up when you've got nothing to offer.
Yes.
I was like, oh, wow, that's deep. Just how hard I'm just imagining for you, Freddie, and if you can reflect on that, like what was going through your mind? I mean, obviously clinging for your life, but what was going through your mind in that season?
The fact that I had somebody who loved me so much and did everything for me, because I couldn't do anything. I really couldn't. And she did everything for me. That was something so special that I will never forget, and I owe it to her. The fact that I'm here is because she was there for me.
That it's just beautiful to me. And the smile you talk about, I've seen it multiple times. And it's so genuine. I love what you said earlier, Camille. It's a choice.
It really is.
It's a choice. It really is. So, I want to thank you all for sharing your story. And I want to close out. I close out with this question every interview with couples, which is, the name of this podcast is Heartbeats. So I'd love for you each to share something that your spouse does that makes your heart beat. And this is not a children's podcast, so you can say whatever you want.
You're going to crack up. I'm going to tell you what he does for me that it's like, oh my God. And we're all about like the love languages, right?
Yes.
So,
yes.
Yeah. So he loves it that I cook for him, right? Like I know what he likes, what he doesn't like. So I get in the kitchen. I don't know what he's going to answer, but I know that's one of. And if I go out and I bring him food, oh my goodness, that to him is like, you love me so much. But at the end of the day, he gives me a foot massage. And can I tell you, that to me, he doesn't have to do anything else, Ruth. I am one of those people that if you touch my foot, that's it. That's all I needed. I'm done. Relax. I'm good to go. And, I just love it that he knows what I like, what I enjoy, what brings me joy. And we're always looking, to each other and to be kind to one another. We're very mindful of being kind to one another. We've learned very quickly to say sorry in the moment.
Yes.
And just And I want to say keep it moving, but not rushing it, but understanding the value of time, because we have learned to redeem the time that we have, and we know that tomorrow is not promised, and today is our present, and it is a gift from God. And so,
Amen.
We want to redeem the time that God has given us.
I love that.
I don't want to answer for you.
That was great.
What makes your heart beat?
You cook for me, baby.
Oh, baby.
I do.
Oh, that's so sweet.
She makes the best food ever, I tell you. She cooks so well. I just love it when she cooks for me, or when she goes out, like she says, and she brings me something to eat. I just love it because I know she's mindful of me, you know, and just for somebody to be mindful of you, I think it just has no words, you know, to explain it, to show them how thankful I am that she thought of me.
That's good. I love that. No, but I think it's funny because sometimes it is the little stuff.
It is the little things. It is. Can I tell you, we have a couple of sayings, right? One of them is we say to each other, we love us. We really do. We love how we do life. We love how we get through the difficult situations, the good situations, how we try to make the best of everything and look for joy, you know, in anything that we're doing.
Yes.
I also say that I was busy before I met him. He was busy before he met me. And we got together and it got crazy. Because our days are like, they never end. I feel like we live 3 days in one. But it's like we know about each other that when we confront like really big, heavy situations, we're good. But the little things will trip us up.
Trip us up, yes.
And so the Bible says to be wise, right, to the schemes of the enemy. So we have learned in our marriage to be mindful of those little things. Like if he makes a joke and it kind of like hits me the wrong way, I used to pout and I don't like that. But now it's like, you know what, honey? I'm going to tell you what you just said makes me feel this way. So I just want you to be aware. It is something that I have to deal with and I'm taking responsibility. But I want you to know that when you say that, it doesn't sit well with me. And he's doing the same with me. He's being honest. If I say or do something that and it just helps us. It helps us end the day, you know, on the best note possible.
Yeah, as you were talking, what came to mind was the phrase, and we basically said it, but redeeming the time, right? You said it, redeeming the time. That phrase is just sticking out to me because you all are examples of, we don't know what tomorrow brings.
No.
So why waste a day stuck in your own, you know, anger, pettiness, frustration? And people have been legit wounded, hurt, all the things like those. Of course, you all know that, right? Like I'm not trying to minimize those things, but at the same time, having a perspective of if you knew tomorrow would look totally different, if you knew this person would be taken and out of your life, or Jesus was coming back tomorrow, right? Because he could.
That's right.
No one knows the time or the day, correct?
No one knows the time or the day. So how would you approach today different? Yeah. How would you approach this situation different? So I love what you're reflecting on there of rather than you kind of sulking in your feelings, so to speak, finding a way to communicate it in a healthy way so you all can keep the day going.
Yes.
That's right. Yes.
And we have matured. I say that, you know, with pride. We didn't start out like this, and I'm praying and believing that the days to come we're going to get even better at it, you know, because it takes work. Anybody tells you different, don't believe them.
Yes.
It takes work. And you have to be willing to do the work. And it pays off, you know, and God is a God of wonders and miracles. And he can do things that you said, what? I can't believe this is actually happening, or that we're able to communicate like this or express each other like this. And he's a healer. God is a healer in every situation.
Yes,
and in every area. And that's what we've been doing also. We've been surrendering those areas that maybe have not been healed, you know. So many things came up, you know, when he got sick, you know, that I thought I had been healed from, traumas and things like that. And God is showing me, you know, and something else, you know, obviously we believe, right, when God brings something to light, it's because he wants us to deal with it, and he's going to see you through it. It's not just because.
Okay, I got to reflect on that. If God is bringing something to the surface, if God is bringing something to the light, because he wants you to deal with it, but he's going to help you go through it. He's going to help you deal with it.
Yes.
Yeah, that's powerful because, like we said, when you're 5, when you're 10, you just have this glamorized view of life. And as you go through, you experience a lot of things. Some things you thought you never would experience or should ever have to experience. And, but God is so for us that, he brings things up in our lives, not to poke at us and be like, you suck, right?
Nope,
but
that's right.
To say, I want you to heal from this. I want you to grow. I want you to overcome this.
Yes.
So I'm not bringing it to the light in a reviewing your past sin, right? Like calling you out, but in a like, I want you to be free from this.
Amen.
Woo. Wow. This was so rich. I'm excited to call Jess after and to reflect on it. I'm not gonna tell her a whole lot though. I'm gonna have her listen to I'll be like, you just gotta listen. But no, I think giving people, including myself, nuggets to sit with about how we approach situations, how we approach even life, and kind of sitting with this thought of choice that we do have choices about the perspective we have on life. And when I look at you two, what I see is a couple that really is appreciative of life and appreciative of the gift of today.
Amen.
Amen to that.
And that means the gift in front of their face. You know, that Freddie is a gift to you, Camile, and Camile is a gift to you, Freddie. And it's a gift that God has given you today, and don't waste today.
Yes.
And I see that in the way you talk about one another and how you share your story and the way you smile at one another. And the choice you make to smile, because it's a choice. Yes. So, it just is so beautiful to be reminded we all have choices, and that doesn't, a lot of times, I've said this before on this podcast, but my grandparents, who are no longer living, these are my dad's parents. I remember my grandpa had a great sense of humor. He was very funny, and he had a big laugh, a very rich laugh. And he and my grandma would laugh a lot too. And I made some comment to them about it one time, like, "Oh, I just love how you guys laugh together." And they said to me, "We're laughing on the outside and crying on the inside." And it really struck me that they were dealing with some very deep pain. And there was a choice that they made to not be completely consumed by that pain, but to make a choice to show up and laugh and appreciate what they could in each day.
Amen.
And I see that with you all.
Thank you for sharing that. That's so beautiful.
Yeah, it just always stuck. It always stuck with me. Their fight for joy. And so, yes, I see that with you all. And I want to thank you guys for taking the time. I know life 3 days in one day, and to share your story. That means a great deal to me and for all those that listen. So
thank you to you, Ruth. We pray for much success, and we pray that our story, right, one of many, but that it would encourage
absolutely
somebody who needs encouragement and somebody who needs to just put their trust in the Lord and know that He will and always does make a way.
Amen. You said it. And I look forward to seeing you in New York soon.
Yes. In person. That'd be great.
In person. It's going to happen.
Awesome.
Can give you a hug in real life. So thank you all. Enjoy your evening.
Thank you so much.
Blessings and much success.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. All right, everybody. It's Heartbeats time. So this is the part of the episode where I share my heartbeat. So what did I sense God speaking to me, or what did He highlight or point out to me as I listened to their story? And for me, it's this word, redemption. I actually saw this in multiple ways, but I'm going to highlight just a couple. We saw God redeeming the time. We see them redeeming the time. And I reflected on that a little bit with them, but I'm going to reflect specifically on how each one of them, there was basically this season or this time for each one of them where they were reaching out to the other person, and the other person just was not able to give in that season what was ideal for the other person. So for Freddy, when he and Camile were talking for 8 months, he wanted something more. But he had to settle for "we friends." And he was patient, and he did not demand, and he did not force something on her, but he waited for her. And he did not get from her what he wanted in that season, but he offered her what she could receive at the time, I guess you could say. But then you get into their marriage, and there is a season of sickness, of healing and recovery that Freddy had to go through. And in that season, he couldn't do much. He couldn't do for Camile what he normally does in health. And Camile had to cover him and take care of him. And she did for him what he could not do for her in that season. And it just points to that picture in both examples of how Christ reaches out to each one of us. And He is... sometimes He does demand, I ain't gonna lie, but He keeps reaching out to us. He keeps helping us, taking care of us, being patient with us when we aren't reaching back in the way that He deserves, in the way that He wants. We keep pushing Him off, and He keeps receiving us in love. And so I see that, and I see just different aspects of reflected in their relationship of God's redemption reaching out to us, even when we can't, and we never can. Like, we never, even in our best, we can't offer to God back what He gives to us. I want you to think about that. I think in our ideal minds, every part of our life, whatever we give to people, they give it back. With the same energy, the same help and enthusiasm and joy, right? Whatever we give to a situation, that situation should give it back to us. Yeah, maybe sometimes, but that just isn't, that's not, no, that's not what it is. So I want you to think of a situation that God has called you to, and these situations involve people. So who are people or a person that God has called you to be in their life in some capacity? It could be a coworker, a family member, a neighbor, a friend, who God has called you to serve. And guess what? They may not be able to give back to you what you are giving them in this season. I'm not talking about letting people step all over you. That's a whole different branch of things. I'm talking about somebody God has called you to serve. Someone God has called you to reflect His redeeming love to, even if they don't give it all back. Even if they don't thank you, even if they don't acknowledge, who can you serve today? I'm going to quote my friend Jessica Jones, who introduced me to the Posadas. Her Specs, that's what we call her around here. She prays all the time. She and I pray together a lot. And she will pray often, Lord, who can we serve? And I just want us to take on that posture. Who can you serve today that, and demonstrate God's redeeming love to that person, fully knowing you might not be given anything back. But can you just do it and show Christ's love, Christ's redemption to that person today? So, thank you, Posadas, for demonstrating that God's redeeming love, and the way you showed redemption and allowed God to show His redemption through you came up in so many levels. I'm just gonna let that sit with people, the different ways redemption showed up in y'all's story, in y'all's lives. So, with that said, you all have a beautiful week. And I look forward to sharing another beautiful story on the Heartbeats podcast. Happy New Year, everybody. I just wanted to come on here real quick just to say I wanted to thank Aunt Pat Herwalt, who I got to interview her and Uncle Bob Herwalt, for the end of season 1 of Heartbeats podcast. Go check out their episode. But I wanted to thank her in particular for giving me the redemptive perspective that I just shared in my heartbeat. And really, she gave that imagery, just as I shared, of God reaching down His arm towards us. When we rejected Him, we continue to reject Him and not receive His love, but He continues to reach His love down towards us. And her perspective, as I was sharing a situation, that perspective changed the way I saw the situation and showed up in it. And so I pray in this new year that you are encouraged by God's redeeming love for you, but also how can you show up and share that love with others. So thank you, Aunt Pat, and God bless you all in this new year.
You are my dream.